Hey everybody, Shibby here. I'm an esports colorcaster and celestial ranked player in Marvel Rivals, and today we are back with more hot takes from the Marvel Rivals community. And this time we are not just taking a look at Twitter and Reddit, we are also going to be looking at some hot takes that you guys left in my comment section from the last time I did a video like this. So I really appreciate everybody that took the time to comment their hot takes. It was a lot of fun looking through those. If you guys want to be included in the next time I do a video like this, please leave your spicy hot takes in the comment section below and I'll take a look at them. I really appreciate everybody that takes time to check out these videos. Please like, comment, subscribe, as that helps me out a lot. We are pushing for 100 subscribers and that would be a really cool milestone for me to hit, but I don't want to take any longer, so let's just get into it. We are going to start off strong with a spicy hot take here. This is from JMK from the Marvel Rivals Twitter community. He actually asks a question. He says, what character takes the most amount of skill and what character takes the least amount of skill in Marvel Rivals? Two-parter question. We're going to answer it in two parts. And I think personally, the character that takes the most amount of skill in Marvel Rivals currently, mechanically in my mind, it is Spider-Man. I think Spider-Man takes the most amount of mechanical skill with all the cancellations you have to do with the animation cancels, the movement tech, the swinging. Getting value out of that character is so insanely hard in my opinion. And I think mechanically that guy has the highest requirement to get value out of. And I can also throw in a couple other characters that may not have a high mechanical ceiling, but just I think are really difficult to play. I think from the strategy side, Adam Warlock and Loki are two of the ones that I instantly am drawn to. I think Adam Warlock, you have to be very, very conscious of your cooldowns and your timings, as well as you obviously have to have really good aim because you're like a pseudo DPS. Making sure your soul bond and your healing charges are on point, right? Using them to cancel out abilities. That's very, very important because those are long cooldowns or relatively long cooldowns for a support. And as well as with Loki, you have to be, make sure your clone positioning is really good. Again, your ability cooldown and your usage, right, with your totems, as well as when you swap with your clones, as obviously the most important part, knowing when to copy an ultimate and using it at the right time, because there's such a small window of when you copy somebody and how long that duration lasts. Obviously, you can extend it with the ultimate, but you want to be able to use the ultimate at the right time, not the wrong time, and just wasting it because it is such a big cooldown. If I look from the, maybe the Vanguard point of view, I would argue someone like Doctor Strange takes a lot of skill just because of his teleport placement, as well as understanding his damage thresholds, shield balancing, right? Shield juggling essentially is what I would call it, where you're juggling your shield, your auto attacks. Again, animation cancels play a big part with this. And also just, like I said, understanding your damage thresholds, right? Killing through support ultimates, although that is going to change pretty soon. Being able to land your Eye of Agamotto, going in and out, creatively using your teleport in situations that give your team an advantage. I think it's very important from the Vanguard aspect. Characters that take the least amount of skill, though. Now, the popular answer, and I think there's a couple, and they're not necessarily wrong per se, and I don't want to equate least amount of skill to like equals like this person's a bad player or anything like that, but pretty common answers and pretty popular ones that I tend to agree with. I think Scarlet Witch, kind of cool, seen as the easiest, one of the easiest characters because of the auto aim ability, a really good escape tool. But I still think she's, takes a amount of skill in regards to positioning, understanding your ultimate, how to use it, because that is just a really bad ability, unfortunately. I would say Rocket Raccoon from the support role, although that may change again with some of the changes where you kind of have to actually aim your heal now. But I would say from season 0 up until now, that character is very easy to get value with, doesn't require a very high mechanical threshold, doesn't really require you to position correctly because you have 2 get out of jail free cards with your dashes. Right? Not that I'm saying you can position lazily, but you can definitely be a lot more autopilot-esque on Rocket Raccoon because of your ability to climb walls. You get an extra boost after climbing walls and then jet boosting instead of just jet boosting directly from the ground. Your healing orbs have a pretty good AoE. You can bounce them. I would say Rocket Raccoon and Scarlet Witch is pretty common answers. I would even go far as to suggest, a Vanguard character that is like relatively easy to play or easy to pick up. This is tough. I think Magneto takes a lot of skill the higher you go, but I think like understanding Magneto and like rotating his cooldowns is not very difficult for like lower elo people to understand, right? Like you have a shield, you have a bubble. He's got like 1 to 2 really good combos, right? The left click, right click, left click, which obviously takes aim. You also have the animation cancel with like the left click into melee right click. There is some stuff you can do, but like I would say Magneto's, he's not like a easy character. He doesn't take the least amount of skill, but I think like to get the base value out of him, I think a lot of players can understand what to do with Magneto and can understand how they kind of need to function. And I think that's a good thing, by the way. And I think Magneto, the higher rank you go, you obviously have to understand, okay, I'm going to pop my shield when I see the Bucky charging his grapple so that I can block the grapple, or I'm going to use this bubble to block an ability, or I'm going to bubble my carry, my dive character, stuff like that. That stuff doesn't happen until later on. But it is like, you know, I think the grasp of Magneto, you know, he's pretty good introductory tank in my mind. But yeah, that's kind of like my opinion on like who the most skillful characters are, or heroes are in the game, and the characters that take quote unquote the least amount of skill. Not that I'm saying the least amount of skill characters are bad per se. This take comes from Reddit, and it's essentially a guy talking about solo tanking is the absolutely worst. Essentially he goes on this long thing about talking about how he's a Penny main, and obviously it doesn't work as a solo tank when he has to, so he end up playing Mag most of the time. Magneto's a fantastic solo tank in my mind, and obviously when I talked about it a little bit earlier, where I talked about like the ease of characters, Magneto becomes infinitely harder when you have to play him in the solo tank role for sure. But this guy essentially goes, you know, kind of complains about solo tanking and like how it shouldn't be allowed, and like a bunch of other stuff, right? And he didn't say it shouldn't be allowed, but he's just like saying, you know, like I hate it when like we see 3 DPS and stuff like that. Hot take from my end, I actually think solo tanking is a skill that all tank players and Vanguard players should learn how to do. Because this game doesn't have a role lock system, because this game is very open, it's not necessarily meant to be played in a 2-2-2 format. You will have to come across games where you solo tank. Unfortunately, it will have to be most of the time Magneto. You can fit Strange in there as well. There are a couple heroes you can solo tank as and on, but realistically, it is a skill that you need to learn as a Vanguard. You like, it sucks sometimes, but like 1, 2, 3 are very common compositions, right? Where it's tank, 2 DPS, 3 supports. Sometimes you get 1 tank, 3 DPS, 2 supports, which I've like I said, I kind of really like that composition sometimes. Like the overwhelming amount of damage can really open up doors for you. And so as a tank player myself that has climbed to very high rank, there have been a number of games where I've had to solo tank. And now when you come into this situation where this guy talks about where your DPS or maybe your supports are complaining about space, that's where I think you can kind of be like, okay, well, yeah, I can't create enough space as a solo tank. It's not possible for me. I need some help. And like, there are certain situations where solo tanking is absolutely the fucking worst. I 100% agree, but it is a skill that you need to learn as a tank player if you're going to play Marvel Rivals. And realistically, if DPS are complaining about space, that's when you can kind of bring up, well, I need help on tank. I can't create space by myself. But yeah, I 100%, it does suck. I agree, but it is something you need to learn as a Vanguard player. It is a crucial skill in Marvel Rivals in my mind. This take comes from my comment section on my last Marvel Rivals Outrageous Hot Takes video. I asked you guys in the comment section to leave me some. I hearted some that I wanted to talk about. And the first one that we will talk about comes from the Psych Duck. Their take is, hot take, Captain America is really good. I don't think this is a hot take. I mean, it is and it isn't. I actually really think Captain America is in an insane spot. I think he's very underexplored. I think to get value out of him is very difficult for a lot of tank players because of the different mechanical things you have to do. If you guys have like look on TikTok at the Captain Crunch combo and stuff like that, there are a lot of good Captain America players. And I think the fact of the matter is, because you have to have so many abilities in his kit and like the things you have to do, it kind of dissuades people and turns people off from playing him. But with the amount of micro buffs that he's been getting from patch to patch to patch to patch, I actually, yeah, I agree with you, Psych. I think Captain America is really good. I don't think he's terrible. I don't think he's low tier. I think he's right below S tier. He's probably like, in my mind, I think he's an A tier character, and he might actually be worth picking up in season 2, given how much of the tank meta might end up being like brawl heavy. So this take comes from the Marvel Rivals Twitter community. This is D Genie. He says, Why are people so concerned about adding characters that have the same or similar power sets to others? Heroes can have the abilities that are 1-1 with another and still use them completely differently and in interesting ways. This is not a novel concept. So this is in response to the Marvel Rivals devs essentially announcing that they'll be releasing like, I think their schedule is like a hero a month, essentially, so 12 heroes a year. We kind of talked about this a while back when people were complaining and people were talking about how like four of the support ults are virtually just a different form of transcendence, right? Luna Snow, Mantis, Invisible Woman. Obviously, Loki can then copy those and just make it a transcendence. And I talked about where you can have characters that have similar ultimate abilities or maybe even similar basic abilities, but like I said, their kits function very differently, right? Like Invisible Woman and Luna Snow and Mantis, all, albeit having transcendence like ultimates or big AoE circle like ultimates, they all have very unique kits and how they play, right? Obviously, Invisible Woman is chock full of CC and disruption with her push and her pull. She has a shield that's attached to her. She has a slow. Mantis is a much more DPS focused and orientated support, right? She has the ability to buff and buff her teammates, buff herself, which is very unique to her, as well as you look at Luna Snow, who's kind of like a catch-all. I would say Luna Snow is kind of innately designed to be a very introductory support hero. But she has the ability to split up her healing, right? Heal other people while she's healing a main target. She's got an AoE that can heal through a lot of people. So she's designed really well for brawl compositions. She also has the ability to freeze people with her CC. And she's got arguably one of the strongest ultimates in the game. So all their kits function very, very uniquely, albeit even though they have virtually the same kind of support ultimate. Now, I don't know how unique you can get when it comes to DPS ultimates. Some of them are just like big AoEs, right? Spider-Man ultimate is a big AoE. Namor is a giant circle, right? Like, you know, DPS ultimates can be fairly similar or do the same function, but they are unique in how they play in their kits. They are unique in what they do, right? Dive characters, for example, if you look at like Venom versus Hulk or Venom versus someone like Thing, potentially, they all dive differently, right? Thor is a brawl character. Thing is a brawl character. You wouldn't say they're the same character, right? Like they function very differently. They have a lot of uniqueness into their kit. So I think there is a moment where Marvel Rivals will run into the burden of knowledge issue in my mind. I think League of Legends suffers from this. Dota to an extent suffers from this, where there are so many characters in the game that by year 2 or year 3 of Marvel Rivals, a new player coming in may find it overwhelming for them to take on the task of understanding what every single character in the game does because they don't know who they're facing or they don't know what they do, right? I feel like what's going to happen with Marvel Rivals is that you're going to get into year 2 and 3 and they're going to release something like Ghost Rider, or they're going to release someone's favorite character and they're going to be like, oh my God, my favorite character's in this game. Let me pick it up. Let me play it. But there are just so many other heroes that I've gone through so many numerous iterations that now it's like, well, we don't know what Jeff the Langshark is going to do in season 3, right? Or year 3. We have no clue what Iron Man's going to look like, or what Iron Fist, who's already undergone some changes in regards to his kit, right? They could end up doing massively big reworks to characters where in season 1 they looked like something else, but now they have a functionally different kit. There's a lot of things that happen when you have a very fast development pace, and it can get overwhelming. I think that is generally a good concern that I talk about, that a lot of other creators have talked about. But in this case, I do think heroes can be unique despite sharing some similarities, right? Marvel heroes innately, a lot of these guys are share some sort of background, or they share similar powers, right? How many like enhanced humans do you get? How many like heroes do you have that share super strength, right? Or speed or something like that? Telekinesis, mind reading. But they all have different functions. They're all uniquely their own to some extent. And I think the Marvel Rivals devs have a good track record of trying to do that, right? Trying to make characters that may be similar feel unique and feel like they're different to play. This take comes from Reddit. It is clearly from a Rocket Raccoon main, and this change is talking about essentially the changes that are coming in season 2 to Rocket Raccoon. He goes, this change looks like it's going to make Rocket a lot less fun to play, so making his healing orbs do burst healing instead of just healing over time incentivizes spamming them at your team instead of figuring out how to bounce them off of walls. I'm going to be honest, nobody was really like figuring out how to bounce them off of walls. Nobody was realistically doing geometry with Rocket Raccoon, right? Maybe the super, super high level ones, but the ones in gold, the ones in platinum, they weren't doing that, right? They were just spamming them and hoping that they would hit. This guy also goes on to say, then they pretty much halved how strong his dash is, a big part of the value he gets. Sure, his mobility is something that makes him very unique, but it's not like he isn't still the most mobile character in the supports, out of the supports and strategists. And his ult is just another defensive ult. Yes and no. So I actually really like these changes to Rocket Raccoon. I'm somebody that plays Rocket Raccoon when he has to support. I think he's a good character. I think he's a lot of fun. Decreasing the healing area of repair mode, essentially his right click. He still does healing over time, but now you do have to actually aim. It actually de-incentivizes heal botting from the back line. And now you actually have to aim at people and hit them with your healing orb to get the max value out of it. I think that's a really good change. It makes it so that Rocket Raccoons can't just spam from the back. He was already a very safe character. You can use your dashes to position in and out. You have to be more mindful of your dashes. I mean, you still get the wall dash, right? Where you go off of a wall and you jump up. Even though it's every 10 seconds, you just have to be mindful, right? Like using a wall and then dashing will still get you a ton of distance, will still make you really, really hard to kill here. It just extends the kill window. I can't imagine, I can't think of how many times I've jumped onto a rocket only for him to like double dash away and then have his dash up again after chasing him, right? It is frustrating, especially when you jump onto him. Like there should be moments where you can kill this guy. His ultimate, I think, is really interesting. There were tons of complaints about Rocket being a throw pick and all that because his ultimate didn't do any healing. It didn't really help you out. It was simply an offensive-minded ult. It still is an offensive-minded ult, but now you can kind of use it to counter other support ultimates. One thing I was talking about with some other people was that you can use Rocket Raccoon ultimate as a potential counter to Invisible Woman. If Invisible Woman ults, everybody has to stay in her circle. Now you throw the Rocket Raccoon ultimate in there, your team is going to be healing, right? I believe it's 100 health every second up to 150 bonus health. And during that time, you'll also have a 25% damage boost increase. Now it's not 40%, 100% agree, but you're going to have the ability to do 25% extra damage against a Invisible Woman's team who is in that circle, who's in that ultimate, you being able to land a lot of your abilities, a lot of your CC. If they don't stay in that ultimate, they will virtually die because they're not getting any healing at all. So it kind of forces them into a catch-22 of, do I stay in this ultimate and potentially lose out on a fight because enemy Rocket Raccoon is ulted, or do I have to leave this ultimate and concede this space, right? I think there is now some counterplay involved with Rocket Raccoon's ultimate that I think will make Rocket a more dynamic character in my mind, and it will actually allow you to see and separate the really good Rockets from the great ones and the bad Rockets from the good ones. Here is another take from my last outrageous Marvel Rivals hot take video where I asked you guys to leave stuff in the comment section below. This is a fairly long one, so I'm going to try to condense it down for you guys. This comes from CWelch7010. And essentially this big wall of text, kind of summing it up, he says, my hot take is that Penny is way better than people give her credit for. And he begins to talk about how Penny has really good ult cancellation in their kit, area deniability, all that good stuff, right? You can take a look at the whole comment here. But essentially, I will say, I don't think she's like way better, but I do think in the right spots, I wish more tanks would pick up Penny. There are certain maps in the game where Penny plus another main tank, essentially Penny utilized as an off tank, is insanely oppressive, right? Like she just has a boatload of area denial. And if your team can also play around that area denial, it is very, very good. One of the maps I think of is the T'Challa map. It's the convergence map. I think it's Beer and T'Challa. You have the ability on the defensive side to completely wall off, or I say wall off, spider off and mine off that high ground area or the steps leading to that high ground. And if they overcommit to you, you can back up. Your team can then support you. You can make them burn and use a ton of cooldowns to potentially kill people on that convergence map very, very easily on the defensive side. I think she's very underexplored is the way I would go see Welch. But I don't necessarily agree that she's like the worst tank in the game. I think on certain maps, on certain game modes, she is S tier, even in my mind, if you're playing her correctly. And you're not just doing like the prototypical mine setup, like you're varying where you're placing your mines. You're really good at your net placement, right? You're canceling ultimates, all the mechanical tech stuff you can do. And I'm really happy to see that she's getting some buffs coming in to season 2 where she can now headshot crit. She also doesn't move as slowly when she's using her primary fire. Like buffing her that way is very, very nice because it makes her have more of a little bit hybrid role when she can kind of like really put pressure onto people and it rewards good aim. But I think she has an insane amount of area denial. And I think on certain maps, she is by far, in my opinion, one of the best tanks in the game. On certain maps specifically. On other maps, yeah, you could argue like on certain control point maps or domination maps. Yeah, she can be pretty garbage. This post comes from the Marvel Rivals Twitter community. He says, Spider-Man is by far the best dive character to ban in Marvel Rivals, 100%. As I've climbed higher in the ranks, I have just been advocating for Spider-Man's consistency because one Spider-Man player can quite literally run your whole team. And it's very, very hard to stop them, especially because they're most likely advocating for the Namor ban or the Luna ban, one or the other. And once that happens, it is very difficult to deal with them, especially when you are in a meta right now where Winter Soldier is a very common ban. Namor being banned out by the other team isn't a bad thing because you can kind of guarantee that the other pseudo anti-dive character is someone like Winter Soldier will be banned out. So Celestial Spider-Mans are the bane of my existence. They are so good. It is so frustrating, even if you do have the Namor and Luna team up, because if they're running something like the Venom Spider-Man team up, it can be very, very disgusting. I just recently won like a Celestial game or a GM1 game where I had like a Lord Spider-Man on my team. He was high-ranked Spider-Man. We ran the lobby as Venom Spider-Man. It was absolutely impossible for them to deal with. And we banned out Namor. Like, it's disgusting. I would highly advocate for Spider-Man bans the higher rank you go. It just saves you trouble. It makes the game a lot easier to play in my mind. Both of these comes from an individual named Horizon Codes. First take is, if QuickPlay is a casual mode and not meant to be taken seriously, I should be able to leave matches without being penalized. And his other take that's regards to QuickPlay is QuickPlay should not be used to learn new characters or mechanics. That's what practice versus AI is for. So I'm going to address the first one. Personally, I don't think you should just be able to leave matches without being penalized. QuickPlay is, when you queue up for a QuickPlay game, you are committing X amount of time to it. You should not be allowed to ruin players' games by leaving it, right? You are saying, I'm going to commit to playing this game. It's QuickPlay. It's casual. You can say, I'm not going to try hard and I'm not going to use my best character. That's fine. But as long as you're not trolling, as long as you're not intentionally trying to lose, as long as you are, not trying to troll and do stuff like that, then yeah, I think you should be forced to play a quick play game. And if you leave, you are getting penalized because there are 5 other people in the game on your team. There are 6 other people on the enemy team that have queued up to play a game of Marvel Rivals. That's my opinion on it. As long as you're not trolling, anything like that, I don't think that should be penalized. But if you are actively trying to grief your team, if you're leaving matches because you get mad or whatever, that is a form of griefing in my mind. So you should be penalized, in my opinion. I don't think you should just be allowed to queue up for free without going, hey, I'm committing to this game, whether it's 5 or 10 minutes, right? It's a quick play game. Like, just play it out. Why did you queue up in the first place, On the take of quick play should not be used to learn new characters or mechanics, 100% disagree. Now, granted, if you want to first start with them in practice versus AI, I completely understand, but nothing is going to replace playing against real people. And I would much rather have people in my games take the new character that they want to play into quick play and play like 10, 15, 20 games of it, learn all the animation cancels, practice those, learn the mechanics, do everything you need to do, and then take it into ranked, than maybe them just taking it into ranked completely. I think quick play should always, number one usage should be to learn new characters and mechanics, or just to have fun and goof off as well, right? Those should be the 2 main uses for quick play. A quick and easy way to play the game you like without having, without having any sort of punishment on your rank or anything like that. I think that's what quick play should be used for, and I think the devs have it in the right spot right now. Hey everybody, thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, I'm going to tell you something you've heard a million times before. Like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications on my latest uploads. I try and respond to every single comment in my video because I genuinely do appreciate everyone that takes the time out of their busy schedules to leave one, and I love interacting with my community. If you want to catch more longer form content, I stream over on Twitch about 3 to 4 times a week, where you'll get unedited versions of these videos, as well as we talk about roster moves, patch changes, as well as gameplay over there. If you care about the short form side, I post pretty frequently on YouTube Shorts and TikTok, where you'll get more condensed version of this content, as well as highlights from my stream, amongst other things. I'm also on Twitter, and all of this will be in the description box below, as well as a pop-up that will form on the right side where you can catch me on all the different platforms. I genuinely appreciate everyone that stops by on this channel and watches all my videos, and I hope to see you in the next one.